purpose of this video is to educate the small business owner so that they know that they're getting the proper feature set, kind of what's standard in the industries, IT-wise, for protecting small and medium-sized businesses. And believe it or not, there are some pretty good standards. You know, there's things that you just understand and expect, like antivirus on all your computers. But there's things that you don't know about, like a firewall that has a subscription, that's a monthly subscription or an annual subscription, that then has added layers of protection that are being updated all the time, just like your antivirus has to be updated all the time. So this video, the purpose of it is to go through from beginning to end all the devices on a small business network and the different things that you should look for and have installed or configured on your devices. Even if you don't install and configure these, you should at least know that they exist so that if a problem comes up, you know some of the solutions that can be used to resolve these issues as they arise. So let's go ahead and we'll get started. Okay, this is where it all starts. This is your cable modem. And this is for just internet access. This is the device that your internet service provider is passing through the internet to you. So this just makes it so that you can plug it into your firewall and then you have control. This device provides zero security for your network. All it is a way to terminate your firewall that is your first point of security with the internet through your provider. This particular cable modem, and all of them pretty much, are coaxial. It comes in through coax cable, same thing you used to have for your cable TV if you're still on cable, coax or Cox or Comcast. So it goes from this device, and some of these look different ways, right? But you've got some that are phone system cable modems that have dial tone built in. They'll look different. This is a basic cable modem if all you have is internet. So this cable is the Ethernet cable going from your cable modem to your firewall. This is the first point of security in your network. So on your on your firewall, which is, it's a firewall router that has lots of functionality. You really want a firewall that has a subscription-based service. If you're not paying annually for your firewall, then you're not getting the security that you really need. If you just bought it, you put it on your network, it's not doing what it should be doing to really protect your environment. So your firewall should have a gateway content filter, and we call this a firewall or a gateway. It's different terms, kind of synonymous with the entry point into your network. So a gateway content filter means that anything coming into your network or going out of your network is filtered. So if someone accidentally goes to a website that's malicious, your content filter more than likely is going to be able to block that and keep them off of it. Someone gets an email with a link to a malicious website that looks legit, they click it, your content filter is also going to block that as well. So you want to have an IPS-IDS, that is intrusion prevention system, intrusion detection system, and that looks for people trying to attack your network, trying to look for vulnerabilities, trying to take data in and out. When your firewall sees that kind of traffic, it's going to shut them down if it does its job right. Also going to log those attacks. Anti-malware and antivirus are both really important things to have on your firewall. Now, when you have those on your firewall, that doesn't mean you don't need to have them on your computers. It is the first point of contact, so you want to filter everything you can before it gets inside your network. So having anti-malware and antivirus on the firewall, where it's inspecting all your traffic looking for malware and viruses, is going to stop a lot of potential threats on in your environment from ever reaching an actual endpoint or a computer. And then it does virtual private networking. VPN's been around forever. It's a way to attach a device through the internet to your network as if they're sitting on your network. And there are better ways to do things than virtual private networking these days. If you have multiple offices, yes, it makes sense to have a VPN, virtual private network, between those offices. But for end users outside the office, there's better ways to handle connectivity than VPN. VPN brings with it its own set of security vulnerabilities. Okay, from your firewall router, it connects to your switch. Now your switch is the point where all of your other devices connect through Ethernet cable. So as you can see, all these devices pretty much connect here. The only device that does not connect here is your cable modem, because this is your way into your network. It comes through the coax cable to cable modem to firewall, firewall to switch, and then all your other devices are connected to the switch. So it's just a centralized place to connect all your devices. Switches can be smart, they can be dumb. It's just really whatever your environment needs. A small provider will have a smart switch, maybe cloud managed, so that we can do work without having to go on site to work on the switch. It saves you money in the long run. It's not a huge expense to have. But that's the point. So the picture here of a network switch, it's where everything terminates. So think like a garden hose, where you hook this up to your house and you can run 4 garden hoses off of your network. So that means you can have 4 hoses doing different things in the environment. So in this case, you might have an Ethernet cable coming off here on your switch going to a computer. That one goes to a server, and this one goes to another switch in a farther location in your office to be able to connect additional devices there. Okay, because there is a maximum distance these Ethernet cables can traverse data, so you have to put in switches at certain distances, and they act like repeaters to be able to fill a large environment, such as a warehouse. If you've got a 300,000 square foot warehouse, you're going to have multiple switches throughout your warehouse jumpered from the primary switch. Okay, so the next device we've got here is the server. On your server, you have applications and databases, a domain controller, any environment of any size. If you have a server, you should have a domain controller. You're going to store files on the server. You're going to have your antivirus agent running on it. And we recommend a remote monitoring and management agent, RMM. Most of your IT service providers are going to load their agents on your computers to be able to support you remotely, to monitor instances such as your database not starting up, to patch your systems whenever Microsoft releases updates or Adobe. And it gives a way to do a lot of work, a lot of monitoring to protect our customers from any incidents before you even know they're happening. Or if they do happen, we can go back and figure out what caused it and come up with a really quick solution to remediate it and keep your costs down and keep our guys productive resolving issues along the way. Okay? So the next thing I've got here is I've got a laptop. And the laptop, this is your primary workhorse for mobile workers. So your laptop might leave the environment and go home or go on the road with your employees. It may just move around your office, or some people just like laptops. So they'll put a laptop on their desk and it never moves. Doctors are really fond of laptops. So they'll have a laptop, maybe it sits on a kiosk or what we call a fishbowl, an area around a bunch of nurses. And their laptop really doesn't go into the room, but they'll leave it there where they can have it on the counter where they can stand, walk in and out without having to sit down behind a desk to do work. So your laptop should have two-factor authentication. It's basically just an end-user terminal for your employee or staff or whoever to access files and applications that are hosted on the server, and they'll use a client application to connect to a server application and database. Again, you want to run antivirus on your laptops. Now, the reason you run antivirus on your endpoint devices, like your server and your laptop, you've got your firewall, it's protecting things on the way in, but once they get into your network, you really need to have another layer there. And layered defenses is how you protect your systems. So you'll have your antivirus on your computer as well. That needs to be monitored and managed actively. Again, you've got your RMM, your remote monitoring and management on there. But another feature on laptops, if they leave your environment, if you have employees that are highly mobile and they go to different countries or different states, or they travel, they're in hotels, having content filter on your laptop is highly recommended. And that's an agent-based content filtering, because once this device leaves the network, the content filtering being performed on your firewall or your content filtering device, whatever you might be using, is no longer going to apply. So if you have an agent-based content filtering on highly mobile devices is really very much recommended. Okay? So then you've got a physical workstation. A physical workstation should have all the same things that a laptop does. The one difference is on a physical workstation, you may not need a content filtering agent because these devices don't leave the network. Now, one thing I didn't put on both of these is that these devices should also be encrypted using BitLocker or some other encryption mechanism that you can store the encryption key in case they do ever disappear, or God forbid you have an employee, you bring in a new practice manager and they're like, you know what, we're getting new computers. Every employee can take their home computer or their work computer home and can have it. Well, now you've got all this electronic protected health information going home with people. Well, if you've got BitLocker devices, you can render them unrecoverable. So there's some things you can do when they're encrypted, and HIPAA considers it a safe harbor. So they're still not recommended to do that, and you've still got some ramifications if you ever do just give your computers away. But sadly, we've actually seen that happen. Okay, so workstation, just like a laptop, the content filtering is probably not as important to have an agent, although you can add another layer of protection having an actual agent on the device. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about is backup. So there's different kinds of backups. You've got just backup to a device. So this is just an external hard drive, and you could have a hard drive or a network attached storage device, and you can back up your server to this device. Now you can back up your computers as well, but most of our customers store all their files and information on a server. And that's good because it's a whole lot cheaper to back up one device than it is to back up a bunch of devices. When we're backing up a bunch of devices, there's agent costs and labor and validating and remediating backup failures, which happen all the time, okay? So this laptop's off the network, it can't communicate to the server, it's going to have a failure. Someone's got to go and look at that device, find out why it failed to back up, oh, it's not there, and have to remediate that. So it becomes very expensive if you're going to back up all your devices and have them properly monitored. Again, if you just back them up and just hope that everything works, that's really cheap to do. But to do it right, it does become costly if you back up all of your peripheral devices and not just your server. So back up your server, you back up to a hard drive. And if you back up to a hard drive, the downside is if this server dies, although you have all your data on the hard drive, you have to get another server. So I can't make this run all my applications. It's just storage. So it's just sitting in there like flat files. So what I have to do is get another server in and restore the data from this drive or from an offsite, if we're doing offsite backups, which we do with all our customers, from an offsite backup onto a new server. Well, what we do is we offer, with our backups, we offer a cold spare server. So it's a commoditized server. We've installed Server 2019 on it or whatever. And if your server dies for a small fee each month, we'll give you a call on a server sitting in our rack. We'll store your data onto it, and we can take that server either on site to your office and have you fully operational the way you were before in just the amount of time it takes to restore your data, which is usually a couple of hours, and have you operational that way. Or we can run your server from our office and create a VPN tunnel back to your firewall and have it act as if it's on your network. So there's lots of options there. That's the cheapest way to do backups, because we may have, let's say we've got 100 servers, but we've got 2,000 clients that have called on those servers. Well, the estimation is that 2,000 clients are going to have the same failure at the same time, so we can have fewer servers than we have clients. It just makes sense. We can keep your costs down through an economy of scale. Okay? So this is probably the cheapest way to do your backups and also have a good recovery plan. But for customers that absolutely cannot bear any downtime at all, or very, very little downtime, then we have a backup disaster recovery device called a BDR. A BDR is just another server or a computer of some kind where you can run everything on your primary server on a backup server. So in this example, I'm just using a Intel NUC. It's just a mini PC. These are great for very small environments. They're not as powerful as a server. They're far less expensive as a server, and you wouldn't want to run your data on here forever. But they'll run it for a period while you're getting a new server ordered and delivered, and then once they're done, your server's there and it's delivered, we can take everything off this, where it sits, restore it onto your new server and get you operational. But this server in this environment can be spun up almost instantaneously when you have a failure. Now, excuse me, it has local backup storage. It is a restore point in itself. I don't have to restore to another server to get you operational. Okay? So this is a really quick way to get operational, but it's more expensive technically than a backup to a disk. There is some real benefits in having this kind of solution. So what we would say is you have to look at your RPO and RTO. And what those are is your recovery point objective and your recovery time objective. That's how much time can you afford to be down and how much data can you afford to lose. And we help you work through that, and you should be going through that before you ever sign up with an IT provider to figure out what are your real tolerances for downtime. You know, if you can't afford to be down for 5 seconds, then you're going to have to figure out what is it worth to you to have that kind of uptime. Okay, so the next thing I've got here, and I actually skipped it earlier, so I'm going to hit it now, is a wireless access point. So I've got in this video, you'll notice that I've got the laptop physically connected, but we could have had that laptop connected wirelessly. And so you've got your wireless access point, and the wireless access point has some features that you really need to consider when you're building your network or rebuilding your network. One of the features that often gets overlooked in wireless is people build their networks for small businesses like they build their home network. They'll set a WEP key, they'll give it a name, and maybe they'll hide that so no one can see it unless they know it. So you call it My Business is your computer name. So let's call it Steve Smith. We'll just call it a guy's name. So Steve Smith is my wireless. So I get my laptop out, I double click on Steve Smith, it asks me for a key, I put in the static key that everyone in my organization has access to, and now I'm on the same network with all my servers and all my network and all my data. Now, the problem with that is pretty obvious. If you have an employee get terminated for whatever reason, they still have that web key. They could sit in your parking lot, probably get a signal from your access point, hop on your network, and wreak havoc, especially if you're not disabling their login and password. For instance, if you don't have a server and your computers all have the same login and password, and your web key static, you terminate an employee, they sit in your parking lot and bring their boyfriend or cousin who's a computer savvy person, and they come out in the evening and wow, they just log into your wireless, they're on your network, they're on your computers, they're downloading your data, they're installing viruses, they're just wreaking havoc across your entire network. Does that happen? Yes, it does. There's a lot of reported cases of that exact thing happening. Okay, so how do you prevent that? With your wireless access point, you need to set it up with Radius and NPS. So Radius is an NPS, so Network Policy Server, and Radius is a way for your wireless access point to use the same authentication that you use to log into your computers. That authentication is controlled by your domain controller running on your server. It can also be controlled from Radius devices that can control it for you, but in general, most companies, if you have a server, you're going to run a NPS Network Policy Server on your domain controller to operate and control access to your wireless network. So the benefit again is I've got my workstation and I've got my laptop. I want to get on the wireless. I go to my company name on my laptop. I double click it. Now instead of asking me for a static key, it's asking me for my login name and password. And it's going to be the same login name and password that I have on my laptop. Now what's the downside? Well, if my login and password on my laptop becomes compromised, it can be used to get into my network. Well, but that's only that one account. It's not compromising everyone's laptop out there. So there's some give and take, but in general, Radius and NPS is a great way to secure your wireless. And okay, so my camera cut out on me at the very last of this video, so I wanted to cover the last things. So on the wireless access point, I was getting ready to start talking about the features on it that allow you to use a landing page for guest network access. This is a great feature that a lot of companies don't take advantage of, especially small businesses. So I like to use medical practices as an example because their waiting rooms are usually full of people waiting to see a doctor or a dentist or optician or what have you. So you'll have a guest network and you'll let people get on it. You'll have the wireless key maybe published to a piece of paper on the desk where people ask about it or what have you. The problem is you're missing a valid marketing tool, and that is your wireless access point. If it's a modern device and professional, it's going to have the ability to send your your wireless guests to a landing page. It could be your Facebook page. You could make them check in or like your Facebook to get wireless access. Send them to a landing page on your website where they have to put in their email address or contact information. Gathering that information is just one more tool in your marketing arsenal. You really need to take advantage of that. So I wanted to bring that up. The only other thing on there was when you do wireless, we do recommend that you buy radios or buy wireless access devices with dual radios. And that way you can run different bands within your network. And that's going to help you if you start to have problems with spotty coverage. It gives your IT guy a lot more to work with trying to resolve issues. So just wanted to cover that. That's all I've got. This video was just kind of a whirlwind tour for business owners to understand from beginning to end how all your devices connect and what you should expect on each device. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach me at the information at the end of this video. Have a great rest of your week.